Rhythm games. If there was ever a perfect competition in gaming, this is about as close as it gets. And if there was a way to describe rhythm games with as little words as possible, they are not easy. The most popular rhythm game in the world right now, according to many sources, is Osu, and honestly, it's the only rhythm game I can really talk about because it's the only one I ever played in a competitive way. But I'm already going on a tangent, so let's have a step back. Osu has 4 different game modes which can be treated as 4 different games since they play so differently. They are called Standard, Catch, Taiko, and Mania. As far as gameplay goes, all 4 of these game modes are very highly competitive, but when it comes to objectively measuring how good you are at the game with milestones, I'm gonna narrow it down to Mania alone. The way you play Osu Mania is by pressing keys to catch notes that are falling down, and there are 2 separate leaderboards that show your global position. One is for playing with 4 keys and the other one for playing with 7 keys. Either one or the other could very well be more popular, but aside from leaderboard ranking, there's one more thing that they both have in common. There exists a fan-made course that determines how good somebody is at the game, and that concept is called the Dan courses. Okay. To tell my tale, I first need to explain how the Dan courses actually work, because aside from a brief video by cynics, I haven't really seen anyone in this community actually explain them. Also, don't ask why I'm a pirate now. So the Dan courses are beat maps that get progressively harder and harder in difficulty, and the harder Dans you manage to surpass, the better you are considered at the game. The course is, however, not an official part of the game itself. It is, as I said, made entirely by the players, but still a very fun way to see how skilled you are at the game. One Dan map consists of 4 songs, each representing one of the 4 skill categories in Osu Mania. Those are Jax, Tech, Speed, and Stamina. Jax, the first category, features evenly spread cluster patterns of multiple notes, with the emphasis being on the same note repeating itself through multiple patterns. When you play Jax, your hands kinda look like a jackhammer, and I guess that's where the name comes from. The second category is Tech, and this one is, in summary, unusual patterns. That usually means short bursts of notes, quick finger movements, and much faster but shorter jacks, which are called mini jacks. The third category, Speed, consists of staircase-looking patterns, usually at a very quick pace that require fast finger movements and a lot of control. The last category, Stamina, has a reason for being last, because it is by design made to drain whatever energy the player has left. The patterns we find in this category are called streams, which are a continuous, consistent long flows of notes without many changes throughout the pattern. Streams generally contain between 1 and 3 notes, and usually go at a very high song beats per minute. And now that we know how Dans work, here's some more general information when it comes to beating them. Achieving a certain Dan is referred to as clearing, and in order to clear a Dan, the player must play through all 4 songs back to back without pausing. Pausing between the map is strictly forbidden and will immediately disqualify the run. You are not allowed to use any modifications built into the game that make playing the game easier, and the most important thing of all is that you must get an accuracy of 96% or above so that your score counts as a clear. Getting anything less than a 96 will not count, and you will need to try again. There are a total of 17 Dans. The first ones are labeled with numbers from 1 to 10, so first Dan, second Dan, and so on, with each being harder than the previous one up to the 10th Dan. The last 7 are much harder than the rest and are labeled with Greek letters instead. That would be Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Epsilon, Zeta, and Eta Dan. So, given the fact that I've been playing this game for years, you would eventually expect me to try this course to see how good I really have become. And now that I'm finally allowed to go on a tangent again, I will reveal which Dan I went for. Through the past few months, I had been trying to go for the Eta Dan, and I cleared it first try. Alpha Dan. I went for the Alpha Dan. It all started back when I successfully cleared the 10th Dan, the last challenge before Alpha. Unfortunately, back then I didn't have a clipping software, but I'm not exaggerating when I say that the result was very close with barely a 96% score. I truly felt accomplished with my achievement, but after all, what I managed to do was still the 10th Dan and not one of the Greek letter ones. I imagined how happy I could be knowing that I cleared one of those. Then I could actually say I achieved something in the game after playing it for over 5 years. Despite barely reaching a good enough score on the 10th Dan and being around the top top 5,000 player in the world at the time, my preparations for Alpha began. Now you might be wondering what makes Alpha Dan so much harder than 10th, and I'm very happy to now introduce all 4 maps that it includes. All 4 of them, so Jax, Tech, Speed, and Stamina, are objectively very well balanced, but as a general feature, people always seem to find only one of them much harder than the rest, and it could be any map out of the 4. I will refer to this later, and now present each of the maps and my experience with them. The first map in the Dan is called Dark Samboland, and it's from the Jax category. At 145 beats per minute, it starts off pretty mildly with patterns that aren't too dense and even comes with a few breaks. In the second quarter of the map though, the patterns pick up in density quite a bit. In the beginning, the patterns consist of mostly 2-note clusters. Here they start using a lot more 3 or even 4-note patterns. This goes on for around 40 seconds, finishing the section off with something that not a single person I've talked to likes. This wall of notes, firstly on the right and then on the left side as well. This, for me, was a big accuracy killer because I'm right-handed and I can hardly do this pattern on the left side. I don't know whose idea it was to put that there. All complaints aside, that marks the first half of the map and we are met with a short break to rest our hands and prepare for the worst. Yes, the wall might be the most annoying part, but it's very much not the worst. The last section of the map begins with a build up to the last drop and has similar patterns to the start of the map. But this only serves to squeeze out that last bit of accuracy because after this section, all hell breaks loose. The last quarter of the map is as dense as a neutron star. The patterns here are mostly made out of 3 notes, sometimes 4 or 2, and very rarely out of a single note. Whatever accuracy I ever had reaching this part would be decreased by at least 1% by the time I was done with the map. This part is so unfairly hard that during practice I would often die on it because I couldn't keep up with the density. If I wanted to clear Alpha, my strategy would be to do the first 3 quarters of the map as accurately as possible and then tank both my accuracy and my health to still retain enough to recover in later maps. My opinion on Dark Samboland was at first unfairly difficult but manageable. Also, I showed every song in Alpha Dan to my mother and her opinion on this one was, is there a cop chasing you with a whistle? The second map after Samboland represents the tech category, and it's called this. I don't speak Japanese, so I'll just call it Odoru. In the first 7 seconds, it starts off as an easy mix of single and double notes, but that's pretty much all the enjoyment you're gonna get with it, because for some reason, as soon as that's over, the map suddenly fills with bursts of very fast notes paired with very annoying jacks resembling Dark Samboland. And this does not stop. Very inconveniently placed jacks combined with notes running all over the place at 138 beats per minute basically go on for the entire map. Bear with me on this one. The first third of the map is at least somewhat manageable, but in the second half, the violin guy that plays the song busts out the trumpet and that for some reason makes the pattern density explode. It's basically the same as the first third of the song, but you have less breaks between the note bursts, and it's all because of this goddamn trumpet. Anyway, if you somehow manage to hold on through both the violin and the trumpet, the guy has one more surprise for you. What if, instead of 1 trumpet, you bust out 3 trumpets? Yes, I'm talking about the last part of the map. Even less breaks, now replacing some of the inconveniently placed jacks with longer bursts of notes. The map ends when the music guy decides to blow into his trumpet until he passes out, and that is perfectly encapsulated in a wild stream of notes. Oh, and by the way, I have something to admit. I lied, because the map that appears in Alpha is not Odoru, but Odoru at 110% speed. It's not 138 beats per minute as I said, it's 151 beats per minute with 10% faster patterns than what I just showed you. I think Odoru is, out of every map in the Dan, the worst one by far. Maybe I'm a bit biased because my fingers aren't fast enough and Mania is the only instrument I've ever been able to play, but still, if what I said before about one map being much harder than the rest is true, then for me that would 100% be Odoru. If I wanted to clear this Dan, I would need to get extremely lucky on Odoru after getting a good play on Samboland. My mother's opinion when I first showed her the song was, is this Turkish music? The third map in the Dan from the speed category is called Makiba. Makiba is for some people a run ender, and I see where they're coming from because my performance on it was dependent on many factors as well. Makiba alternates between two types of patterns. One of them is this light stream of stair-looking notes followed by a much faster and harder stair pattern. This combination of patterns repeats again. An easier staircase pattern followed by a harder one. When we make it through that, there's a brief pattern near the halfway point through the map to rest our fingers. After this, we are met with the easier pattern again, but something different happens here. For some reason, the easier pattern turns into a complete mess halfway through it. The notes become jumbled and hardly even resemble speed anymore. But that's really not that big of an issue because it's very quickly over and we need to face the harder pattern again. After the harder pattern, we have the last easy pattern of the map, and once that's over, we need to face the most difficult part of Makiba. This final stretch consists of two harder patterns back to back. The first hard pattern is basically a buffed version of what we've seen so far. Staircases are denser and require more finger control. To finish off the map though, there is yet one more challenge ahead of us, which I refer to as the Makiba Manip. This is another hard pattern, the hardest in the whole map, but for this it is possible to use pattern manipulation to lose as little accuracy as possible. The notes on the screen might look like a complete mess, but what I'm doing to hit them is alternating between the left and the right keys on my keyboard. Even though such manipulation is the strategy most people that try to clear alpha use at the end of Makiba, it is also the easiest one by far to mess up. If you only hit one note too quickly, the entire pattern manipulation comes crumbling down and you lose a lot. And I mean a lot of accuracy here. This last part requires absolute concentration and I could not let it be the thing that held me back. I'm decent at speed, so after suffering accuracy loss on Odoru, I would need to increase it with Makiba or at least maintain it on a high level. I can't really say I dislike the map, but it's also not among my favorites. My mother's opinion on this song was that it sounds like, you're never gonna guess this one, that it sounds like an Austrian kindergarten. I have no words to comment on that. So I asked ChatGPT to make me an image of an Austrian kindergarten, and this right here should, instead of this damn cat, be Makiba's thumbnail. Also, please comment if you're from Austria or Turkey. And finally, we have reached the last map in alpha representing the stamina playstyle. It is titled Laser Beams, it's the longest map in alpha, and also the one that I am most biased on. Something I need to say before showing it is that stamina is the category I am the best in out of all four, so my opinion stands out from other people's opinions about this map a lot. Laser Beams runs at 260 beats per minute, meaning that it's the fastest map in the Dan. It begins with a mixture of streams and jacks, probably to warn the player that there is still time to exit out of the map before their hands get completely annihilated. As the warm-up is over, the patterns turn into jump streams. Jump streams are a mixture of 1 and 2 note patterns at a very consistent pace. At the first glance, they might look easier than what we've seen so far in the other 3 maps, but maybe I should also point out that this goes on for the rest of the map, which is over 2 minutes, and the only break you get is this. Through the rest of the map, the patterns rarely ever change. The only 2 things I would actually point out is that the first part after the drop uses this pattern, a simple alternation between the left and the right keys. If you memorize exactly where these patterns are, Laser Beams becomes a bit easier. And the second thing I would point out is the hardest part of the map, which is the only one that uses patterns of 3 notes and is located in the second half of the song. Aside from that, what makes Laser Beams hard is its fast beats per minute and its length, not the actual patterns, which are in fact very mild and not dense like Dark Sambaland. I am a simple man. If you throw simple patterns at me, even if they're fast, I'll be able to pull through them. But the second you make them slightly denser, I yield. That is probably why I was able to pull the highest accuracy on Laser Beams out of all 4 maps, and in case I messed up anywhere else in alpha, this would be my saving grace. I find Laser Beams extremely fun, which is again something that not a lot of people think about it. And my mother's opinion on it was anime girl party. Alright, all 4 alpha maps are set. My strategy for this would be to try and make it through the first 3/4 of Dark Sambaland with a high accuracy, then tanking the last part and the entirety of Odoru, maintaining and possibly slightly increasing my accuracy on Makiba, and finally getting a good Laser Beams run to finish the Dan at a 96% accuracy. It was time to practice. My goal for practicing the Dan was playing other maps and generally getting better at each individual category. I would dedicate each daily session I had to one playstyle until I was progressively good enough at all 4 to take on the challenge. As things stood, I was good at speed and stamina and bad at tech and jacks. In spite of that, even though I was supposed to improve on the latter 2 categories, I chose a different route. I decided that if I was simply good enough at speed and stamina, that would help me carry the whole run in the second half. Looking back look at it now, it was a viable strategy, but I could have definitely been ready for alpha sooner if I had just practiced tech and jacks instead. After a few weeks of speed and stamina practice, I was around top 4,500 player in the world according to the leaderboard, but I still couldn't say I was alpha. To put my skills to the test, I would firstly try to get 96% on each of the 4 individual maps in alpha, and once I could manage that, I would know that I was ready. So one by one, I began individually getting 96% on each map in alpha. Now, I know I said I was good at stamina, which I was, don't get me wrong, but back then, my keyboard decided to break, and until it was repaired I couldn't use it. So I switched back to the old one I had used before. What I then found was that the keys on the keyboard were much easier to press, and that gave me a huge boost in speed and a slight disadvantage in stamina, because my fingers kept slipping off. All of that considered, I would soon enough get 96% on my first alpha map. But surprisingly, that was not laser beams. It was Makiba. One day I was having a decently good session and decided to try and go for Makiba. Until that day, I could in no way do its patterns. But maybe it was possible that with a different keyboard, I could actually keep up. So I tried it for fun and let my results speak for itself.
I lived the whole second drop 0.7, so let's see.
No, 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 no! No!
Well, there's no way.
No! No, I refuse to believe this. No! No, I refuse to believe this. No, 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 this is not real. I am alpha speed. This does not count. I am alpha speed.
95.99% on Makiba. Technically, and in every single way, this does not count as a clear. But for the time being, I gaslit myself into believing that I was alpha speed to help with my mentality. The next day, I used my newfound skill boost in speed once again, and that time, I actually ended up getting a 96% score. I had 1 out of the 4 maps in alpha done. As I kept on practicing maps, I discovered that I was completely skill issued when trying to play stamina on the replacement keyboard. But it turned out the reason my fingers kept slipping off was because I was getting sweat on them by playing the game so intensely. After discovering the power of washing my hands with soap, I could get a 96% score on laser beams shortly after Makiba. I was so disappointed in myself that I didn't even bother clipping my reaction. But I still confidently told everybody that I was now half 10th and half alpha. The only maps left to clear were Odoru and Dark Sambaland. My journey from being half alpha and half 10th to being entirely alpha took a very long stretch. And my strategy was 100% the reason to blame. Remember how I said I dedicated my sessions to exclusively what I was good at just because I heavily disliked Jackson Tech? Well, if we calculate the accuracy I would need to clear the entirety of Alpha after getting an accuracy between 93 and 94% after Dark Sambaland and Odoru, I would need to play both Makiba and Laser Beams with an accuracy higher than 97.5%. I might have been good at them, but definitely not that good. Still, however, that's the strategy I went with. I was so confident that it would work to even go as far as a step beyond Alpha, trying to clear both speed and stamina in the Beta Dan. That will be a story for another time. Let me at least show you what happened after practicing speed and stamina for a few weeks. This right here is Beta Speed. And I once again forgot to clip my reaction. I cleared Beta Speed before clearing half of Alpha. I could not believe what I was seeing. Even Alpha felt barely achievable for me, and I succeeded in clearing something in Beta. And then I did it again with stamina.
Oh my lord! Oh my god!
What?
This is Beta Stamina! This is Beta Stamina! What? I thought I lost 96 like a while ago. That's insane. How did I just clear this?
To summarize those few weeks, I was able to tell my friends that I was half 10th and half beta while still being absolutely garbage in the first two categories. I was divided between playstyles, locked on the 10th dan due to Jackson Tech, and my progress came to a stagnation. That was also around the time when I passed Parallel Universe Shifter and got my first and only 6-star map full combo. And for that, I did not forget to clip my reaction.
I have seen it! I have seen it! Oh my god! Oh! Oh my god! Yes! Oh my god! No shot! No fucking shot FC to 6-star! I just FC to 6-star!
Full comboing a 6-star map was a massive victory for me. But it still brought me no closer to becoming alpha, because the map I did it on was overrated and mostly consisting of stamina. Weeks once again passed, with my strategy unchanged. I overcleared Makiba and laser beams by getting a 97% score on both, while the other two were still holding me back heavily. But all of a sudden, I got an idea. What would happen if I just went ahead and actually played maps with Jackson Tech? But no. The urge to keep pushing speed and stamina to the limit persisted. Mostly. Maybe I played a few mini-jack maps. And then Odoru fell. Looking back, I must have been very heavily dosed on caffeine, because even today I can barely clear Odoru, but with a 96% accuracy that didn't matter, as I finally had 3 out of 4 alpha maps under my belt. Now the only thing standing between me and clearing the Dan was Dark Sambaland. Seeing how close I was to alpha, only Jax standing in my way, I actually answered the wake-up call and started practicing Jax. I really was not good, losing control often, but not being locked onto speed and stamina alone anymore helped me adapt to the playstyle better. Soon I came to the realization that having smaller keycaps was extremely helpful with Jax, and through sheer torture with fast, dense maps, I could carry on and improve enough to get a 96% accuracy on a 5% slowed down version of Dark Sambaland. But then the next day, I felt like I could push it to the very limit. Maybe, just maybe, I could keep up with Dark Sambaland's 145 BPM at last. While practicing the map, I realized that the only reason that I hadn't been able to get a 96% score on Dark Sambaland was the ending. This whole time, the whole time I was heavily avoiding Jax, was only because I was so afraid of the Dark Sambaland ending. My own cowardice was why I was still 10th Dan. It was not Odoru. It was not the manipulation in Makiba. It was not the wall of notes. It was my own fear of dense Jax at the end of Dark Sambaland. And so, I practiced it. A lot.
Let's
Oh
fucking
my
go.
god, yes!
Let's fucking go.
Yes!
Bro, you ran 96.00 by the way.
Yes! Oh,
that's a
screw
PB.
you, Sambaland.
My weeks of practice had finally paid off, 96.04% on Dark Sambaland marked a new achievement. With all 4 maps in Alpha cleared, I was finally ready to take on all of them at once. I wasn't exactly sure how that would go, since my plays on Sambaland were still extremely inconsistent and I could either get a 96% or a 94% score at the end of it. I never knew what Odoru had in store either, but all I knew was that I had to use Makiba and laser beams to reach 96% accuracy. As a reminder, Makiba could still very well throw my runs with its manipulation tactics, and on top of that, I was never warmed up in stamina, because I relied on warming up in other playstyles, so laser beams was also a big question mark. Nevertheless, I tried my hardest to not get too nervous as I played through the map, and here are some highlights from my first ever attempts at trying to clear the Alpha Dan.
Dude, where is it? Oh, there you are, okay. Hope my hands didn't cool down too much.
Hell no.
Dude, my hands cooled down too much. Why does Sambaland suck?
I think you should restart.
I need to warm back up in other sets as well, so I might as well just finish it. Like, Makiba and laser beams can clutch, but I need a really good Makiba, which I'm not gonna get.
Oh,
Dude, I think if I get the best goddamn laser beams of my life, I can clutch this. I think I can clutch this if I get the best laser beams I've ever played.
what's up?
Please. Oh. Dude, I can't keep up. Like, if I just get good Sambaland and Odoru, I am so easily alpha. It's... I did Odoru and Sambaland so poorly, and yet I get 95.6. Alright, let's do this. What?
Whoa.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the day where I clear Alpha. Odoru, don't screw me over, please. Oof.
Oh my god.
Oof.
Oh my god.
Please, Makiba. Ah, that laser beam was so good. Almost. Yeah, Makiba again. Like, there's literally anything I would rather do right now than speed. Oh no. Okay, please. Like, this has to be it.
Wait. Oh, yeah, he's focused. Yeah. Okay.
Ooh, ooh, ooh. Oh, this might be it. Oh, this might be it. Odoru, please don't screw me over, please. Ooh! That's my best after Odoru, ever. Please, Makiba. Makiba, I beg you. Oh my god! Please. Please, I need 96 laser beams. I just need to hold it, please, please. Oh, I'm so stressed, I'm so stressed. Dude, I hate myself.
Nice, clear.
No,
Nice, clear.
That's not clear.
Most of my attempts on Alpha were sad ones. Whatever Dark Sambaland didn't ruin, Odoru or Makiba did, and 95.93 was also eventually bound to happen. To clear this, I just needed one good run where I would do everything perfectly to snatch that 96%. And that's exactly what I got.
No. No shot. D.Va.
And
Yes!
You did?
Yes! I am Alpha! Oh my god, I did it! I did it! Oh. Well, now it's beta time, right?